So how about what would you have wanted to focus on more in school? You wanted more Greek, right? More Greek and Hebrew?
No, I wanted just enough of that to meet the bare minimum necessary. I would have enjoyed more apologetics classes. And I'm not just saying that because you're having me on here today.
Shucks, you're speaking our language now.
I find that particularly with youth, because it's the age where I think a lot of people have questions, they have doubts, and for their personal faith. Students, the high school age, especially in college age, is where they're actually verbalizing them. And in some cases, it's the prime time to either address those questions or they might just abandon church, kind of walk away altogether. And so it's not that they're the only group of people that are asking questions, but they're the ones that I think they're more likely to actually say and that they don't believe or that they're struggling with something. And I find that I think of children's ministry through middle school. It's a lot of teaching them what to believe. And then as you get to high school and college, you're starting to kind of get into why we believe this, and then how it stacks up against other faiths. So you want to give them that foundation early on, but realizing that's a big part of the high school and college age. I wish I would have taken or had the opportunity to take more apologetics style courses.
Yeah. So you see those types of issues are more important to the student, or do you see that it's more important that they learn those things? In other words, are they aware that they need to know those things and so they want to, or are you aware that they need to know them whether they're not, and so you want to make sure that they do? You understand what I'm saying there?
I think so. I think and I think I'd answer yes.
Good, because that's a great answer.
I say there's a number of students, and unfortunately, even the students I know, they come regularly. I don't know which ones they personally need. Not to necessarily be trained in apologetics, but to hear an apologetic style teaching and explanation to strengthen their own faith, because maybe they're doubting. So there's the aspect of apologetics and youth ministry that really gives confidence to the individual student that they have questions. But there are some they're thriving. They're not struggling. They're not necessarily, we all could grow in our faith. I want to be careful how I word that, but for them, it gives them the clarity to be able to engage in conversations with other people. And so then it's giving them tools. It's not just helping them personally, but it's also giving them tools to interact with those around them. And at Calvary, we have a mixed bag of students as far as some of them, they've got very minimal interaction with people from different religions, different worldviews. But for the ones they do, they're fully and they're fully in it. And so they are constantly hearing different perspectives, and they're craving the tools and the training to be able to engage not just in conversation, but also the culture. Because like I said, they have the interest in politics and things. And so they're thinking about social issues in a way that just students haven't, I think, before.
Yeah. So our kids then, our students are the learned students who are very mature for their age. Are they then asking the questions and not finding an avenue to look for the answer, or are they kind of coming to you for it, or are they looking for maybe some podcasts, like, this one little one out of your church that operates, or, are they kind of aware of where to go other than, not other than, but, what direction are they taking for finding those answers? Or are they just asking amongst their peer group and hoping that someone has an answer?
I think, unfortunately, you got a mixture of everything. I think there's a lot of students, and kind of a little bit of our culture today, that there's an acceptance of other people's beliefs and worldviews with that, even if they're contradictory, they don't agree with your own, they don't stop and wrestle with it and realize that they both can't be true. So there is a politeness and a certain level of acceptance, unfortunately, among some students, that they are like, okay, that's good for you, but not for me. And obviously we don't. We want to encourage them to actually engage, to push back a little bit, to ask some questions. Like I think of is it Kukul that talks about putting a pebble in their shoe? Once maybe they don't know all the answers, but they hopefully gets them to think about their belief system. So some just they just know there's these competing worldviews, and they believe what they believe, and they don't necessarily engage. So there's some who. It's the most compelling argument at the time wins, and that's a scary thing for students. Is if or the majority. So like if maybe they have a really convincing friend, or they have a lot of friends, that can be winsome, especially if they've never heard this alternative view, and they just assume that, wow, my pastor never talked about this, he probably doesn't know either. And so there's there's a lot of different reactions, I guess, and responses. We hope that we want them to know that the Bible has an answer to their questions. And even if they don't know, part of what we want to instill early on is that even if you don't know the answer, the Bible does have the answer, and you can look for it and you can come back to it.
Including being careful about accepting the first answer that you hear.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And we'll include a link to our interview with Greg Kokel below, so you can click on that as well and watch us talk to the Greg Kokel, which was pretty cool. So then, for how you prepare to answer, is it? Do you find yourself kind of sitting down and having one-on-one discussions, or is it once it hits a crescendo of I've heard three people kind of talk about it, I'm going to preach on it, or how are you? How best do you find it addressed? Is it more one-on-one time, or is it kind of in the lecture setting?
Yeah, and again, all of the above. Yeah. I think so. We just kind of how we operate. Our senior small group, we have small groups by grades. It's a year that's completely dedicated to apologetics, and so we have one avenue where we want to prepare them for college. It's the final year, so that's a kind of a year-long exposure there to those questions. From me teaching on Sunday mornings, I go a variety of. Sometimes this has become a big issue, and so I'm gonna address this, and it's important to address. I'm getting a lot of questions. Sometimes just like a couple months ago, I did a series just a 1 week overview on Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Christian Science, and just kind of here's where they disagree, and then or where we disagree from them, and then how do you start a conversation? How would you what key doctrines is it helpful to know if you meet somebody like this, because obviously the whole Bible, it's helpful to know all of it, but what are the key points of where we differ? And so sometimes I'll hit something like that. Sometimes it's a couple years ago, we looked at different worldviews with like Marxism to Islam and atheism, just kind of hit some from a worldview perspective, sometimes I guess you might call it cults. And so we've done it different. So sometimes it comes up in teaching series. Of course, I want every student to know anytime they have a question, they can come to me directly. And there is a number of personal conversations I have with students. And but if I get a number of those, I want to teach on it, because if a few people actually come to me, it's probably because a lot of them are having that same thought.
Yeah. And that's why you have a line item for just coffee, because that's
right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right.